Commander stood on the bridge of the flagship and stared at the viewing screen. His four eyes blinked slowly as he studied the object floating in the darkness of space. It was a ship. At least, he thought it was a ship. It looked more like a piece of space junk than any vessel he had ever seen. "What am I looking at?" he asked his sensor officer. The officer, a young female named, checked her instruments again. She seemed confused. "It appears to be a warship, Commander, but the design is unlike anything in our database. The computer cannot identify its origin." Leaned forward in his command chair. The hegemony controlled over 300 star systems. They had records of every spacefaring species in this region of the galaxy. There was nothing they did not know, nothing they could not identify. And yet here was this strange ship, drifting alone in the empty space between galaxies. "How old is it?" asked. Ran more scans. Her face changed from confusion to disbelief. "Commander, the carbon dating shows this vessel is approximately 12,000 years old." A murmur spread through the bridge crew. 12,000 years. That was before they had even discovered fire. That was before most civilizations in the galaxy had crawled out of their oceans. "Impossible," said Lieutenant, the weapons officer. He was a large male with skin and a bad attitude. He had fought in a dozen wars and feared nothing. No ship could survive that long in open space. "And yet there it is," replied. Ordered the fleet to move closer. He commanded 47 ships, all of them beautiful examples of engineering. Their hulls were smooth and silver, designed to slip through space like fish through water. Their engines used quantum-fold technology that could bend the fabric of reality itself. Their weapons could crack planets in half. As they approached the ancient vessel, the differences became painfully clear. The old ship was ugly. There was no other word for it. Its hull was thick and heavy, covered in plates of some kind of metal armor. Could see scars and burns along its surface, marks of ancient battles fought long ago. The ship had no smooth curves or elegant lines. It was all hard angles and brutal shapes, like a weapon designed by someone who only cared about one thing: war. "Look at those engines," Lieutenant laughed. "Are those chemical thrusters? I have not seen those outside of a museum." Other officers joined in the laughter. The ancient ship used technology so old it was almost funny. Its engines burned actual fuel. Its hull was made of simple metal instead of energy shields. Its weapons appeared to be kinetic projectile systems, the kind that fired physical bullets instead of energy beams. "This thing is a relic," continued. "Whatever species built this, they clearly never advanced beyond the Stone Age of space travel. I am surprised it even made it off their planet." Was not laughing. She was still studying her instruments and her face had grown pale. "Commander, I am detecting something strange about the weapon systems." "What about them?" asked. "They are still armed." The bridge went quiet, felt a cold feeling spread through his chest. "Explain." "The projectile weapons are primitive, yes, but they are not carrying simple ammunition." Looked up from her console. "They are carrying nuclear warheads, hundreds of them, and according to my scans they are still functional." Stopped laughing. The other officers exchanged nervous glances. Nuclear weapons were banned across the civilized galaxy. They were considered too dangerous, too destructive, too cruel. Only the most primitive and violent species used such things. Only species that did not care about the consequences of their actions. "Who builds a ship like this?" asked quietly. "Who puts that much armor on a vessel? Who arms it with weapons of mass destruction?" "Someone who expected to fight," replied. "Someone who expected to face enemies everywhere they went." He made a decision. "Prepare a boarding party. I want to know everything about this ship, where it came from, what species built it, and why it is here in the middle of nowhere after 12,000 years." The shuttle bay doors opened, and a team of soldiers flew across the gap between ships. They landed on the ancient hull and began cutting through an airlock door. The metal was tough, much tougher than they expected. It took them almost an hour to break through. Watched the video feed from the boarding party as they entered the ship. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered weakly along the corridors, casting strange shadows on the walls. The air was stale but breathable, preserved somehow across the... The construction is remarkable, the team leader reported. Everything is built with redundancy. Backup systems for the backup systems. Whoever designed this ship wanted it to survive anything. Keep moving, ordered. Find the bridge, find their records, I want answers. The team pushed deeper into the vessel. They passed through heavy doors that looked like they could stop a plasma cannon. They walked down corridors lined with pipes and wires, all of it crude but incredibly solid. This ship was not beautiful. It was not elegant, but it was built to last. Then, as the team entered what appeared to be a command center, something happened. A light turned on. Just one light, small and red, blinking on a console that should have been dead for thousands of years. The boarding team froze. On the flagship gripped the arms of his chair. "What was that?" he demanded. Before anyone could answer, another light turned on. Then another. Then a dozen more. Across the ancient ship, systems that had been dormant since before the hegemony existed began to wake up. And somewhere deep in the vessel, in a chamber the boarding team had not yet found, something that had been sleeping for 12,000 years opened its eyes. They had come looking for answers. They were about to find more than they bargained for. The boarding team stood frozen in the command center of the ancient ship. Red lights blinked around them like angry eyes waking from a long sleep. The air felt different now, charged with something that made their scales itch. "Commander," the team leader whispered into his communicator, "something is happening here." On the flagship watched through the video feed. His hearts beat faster than they should. "Describe what you see." "The consoles are lighting up, one by one. I think the ship is powering itself on." The team leader paused. "Should we withdraw?" Considered the question. The smart thing would be to pull his people out and destroy the ancient vessel from a safe distance. But curiosity burned inside him like a fire. 12,000 years. This ship had been floating in the void for 12,000 years, and now it was waking up because they had touched it. "No," he said finally. "Continue the mission, but be careful." The team moved deeper into the ship. They found more rooms, more corridors, more evidence of a civilization that built things to last forever. The walls were covered in writing they could not read, symbols and letters that meant nothing to them. They found pictures, too, printed on material that had somehow survived the ages. The pictures showed creatures unlike anything in the database. They stood on two legs like many species did, but they had only two eyes, only two arms, and their skin came in different shades of brown and pink. They wore simple clothing and stood in front of strange buildings under a blue sky. "What are these things?" one soldier asked. Nobody answered, nobody knew. They found the data archive in a room near the center of the ship. It was a massive machine, old but still functional. Wires and circuits covered every surface. A single screen glowed with pale light, waiting for input. "I found something," reported from the flagship. She had been working to translate the alien symbols. "The writing system is actually quite simple once you understand the basic rules. Give me a few more minutes and I can interface with their computer." Those few minutes felt like hours. Watched the screen, waiting, wondering what secrets this ancient vessel held. Around him, his bridge crew had gone quiet. The laughter from earlier was completely gone. Something about this ship made everyone nervous. Finally, made the connection. Data began flowing from the ancient archive to the computers. Thousands of files, millions of records, all of it written in that strange, simple language that was slowly becoming readable. "I have the ship's name," announced. "It is called the Prometheus. There are 3 letters before the name that seem to indicate its origin. U-E-S United Earthship." Earth, Lieutenant frowned. I have never heard of a planet called Earth. Neither have I, admitted. But according to these records, that is where this ship came from. A small planet in a system far from here, on the other side of the galaxy. Felt that cold feeling again. What else can you tell me? Worked through the files, her eyes moving quickly across the screen. The ship was not built for exploration or trade. It was built for one purpose only, to carry people away from their home world, to save them from something. Save them from what? I do not know yet. The records are damaged, but Commander, there is something else. Looked up from her console and saw fear in her eyes. The weapons on this ship, the nuclear warheads, there are not hundreds of them, there are thousands, enough to destroy every planet in a star system, and they are all still active. Silence fell over the bridge. Tried to understand what he was hearing. A ship designed to rescue people, armed with enough weapons to kill billions. What kind of species would build such a thing? What kind of universe did they live in that made this seem necessary? The boarding team continued their search. They found crew quarters with beds sized for the strange two-legged creatures. They found a medical bay filled with equipment they could not understand. They found storage rooms packed with supplies meant to last generations. And then they found the chamber. It was huge, bigger than anything else on the ship. The walls were lined with pods, thousands of them stacked from floor to ceiling. Each pod was made of glass and metal, covered in frost, connected to machines that hummed with quiet power. Commander, the team leader said, his voice shaking, there are things inside these pods. What kind of things? The creatures from the pictures, the two-legged ones. They are inside the pods, thousands of them, and I think they are alive. On the flagship, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Stared at the video feed at the rows and rows of frozen bodies and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. This was not just a warship. This was not just a rescue vessel. This was a colony ship. These creatures, these beings from a planet called Earth, had sent their people across the galaxy inside a flying fortress armed with nuclear weapons. They were running, said quietly. Running from something so terrible that they armed their escape ships like battle cruisers. Running from something that made them so afraid they brought enough firepower to destroy anyone who got in their way. What could make a species so paranoid? Asked. Had more information now. The translation was almost complete. Commander, I found something in the navigation files. The ship had a destination, a planet called 442b, but the records show the ship never arrived. Something happened during the journey. The engines failed. The ship drifted off course. The crew put themselves into frozen sleep to wait for rescue. Rescue that never came, finished. No, sir. Rescue that never came. They have been drifting out here alone for 12,000 years. Looked at the frozen faces in the pods. These creatures had left their home, hopping to find safety among the stars. Instead, they had found only the cold, empty void. They had slept while their ship carried them nowhere, while their species rose and fell, while the galaxy changed around them. And now they had woken them up. Pull the boarding team out, ordered. I need to know more about these creatures before we do anything else. I need to know who they are. I need to know what happened to their species. Search the galactic archives. Find me everything we have on the planet Earth and the creatures who lived there. As the team made their way back to the shuttles, kept watching the video feed. The frozen faces stared back at him through the glass of their pods, eyes closed, bodies still, waiting for a tomorrow that might finally be coming. He did not know why, but looking at those faces made him feel something he had not felt in many years. It felt like fear. The search through the galactic archives took 3 days. 3 days of scholars digging through ancient records, forgotten databases, and classified files that had not been opened in thousands of years. 3 days of growing confusion and growing fear. Barely slept during that time. He stayed on the bridge, watching the ancient ship through the viewing screen, waiting for answers. The Prometheus floated silently in the darkness, its systems still running, its cargo of frozen creatures still sleeping. It felt like it was waiting for something. On the fourth day, came to him with a data pad in her shaking hands. "I found them," she said. "I found information about the planet Earth and the species that lived there." "Took the data pad, tell me." "They called themselves humans. They existed approximately 10 to 15,000 years ago in a small star system on the far side of the galaxy. They were a young species, one of the youngest to ever achieve space travel." Paused. "They were also one of the most violent." "Go on." "The records are incomplete. Much of the information has been destroyed or hidden, but what I found paints a disturbing picture." Sat down as if her legs could no longer hold her. "Humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow the rules of war. They did not accept defeat. When they were attacked, they did not negotiate or surrender. They fought back with everything they had, and they did not stop until their enemies were completely destroyed." Scrolled through the data pad. He saw reports from species he had never heard of, civilizations that no longer existed. Each report said the same thing in different words. The humans were dangerous. The humans were relentless. The humans were not to be provoked. "There is a record here from the Dominion," continued. "They were a powerful empire about 12,000 years ago. They controlled nearly 100 star systems. They thought the humans were primitive and weak. They attacked 3 human colony worlds without warning, killed millions of civilians, and expected the humans to surrender." "What happened?" "The humans did not surrender. Instead, they went to war. Not a limited war, not a war for territory or resources, a war of extinction. The humans hunted across the galaxy. They destroyed their fleets, burned their planets, and killed every single member of their species." His voice dropped to a whisper. "The Dominion does not exist anymore, Commander. There are no left anywhere in the galaxy. The humans erased them from existence." Felt his blood run cold. That is not possible. No species could do that to an entire empire. "They were not the only ones." Handed him another data pad. "The collective made the same mistake. They enslaved a human colony ship and sold the survivors as laborers. Within 50 years, there were no left alive. The Federation tried to blockade Earth and starve the humans into submission. The humans built warships in secret, broke the blockade, and burned every world to ash." Looked at the list of names on the data pad. All of them were gone. All of them had been destroyed by the humans. All of them had made the mistake of thinking humans were easy prey. "There is a phrase that appears in many of these records," said, "a warning that was passed from species to species across the galaxy. Do not wake the sleeping giant. Do not poke the hornet's nest. Do not give humans a reason to fight, because once they start fighting, they will never stop." "Then what happened to them?" asked. "If humans were so powerful, so dangerous, why are there no humans in the galaxy now?" Shook her head slowly. "Nobody knows for certain. The records call it the silence. Approximately 10,000 years ago, all communication from human space simply stopped. Their fleets disappeared. Their colonies went dark. Some say they destroyed themselves in a civil war. Others say they were attacked by something even more powerful than they were. A few records suggest they simply left, traveling to another galaxy or another dimension entirely. But these humans on the Prometheus, they have been sleeping for 12,000 years. That is before the silence happened." "Yes, Commander. These humans left Earth before whatever happened to their species. They do not know their civilization is gone. They do not know they might be the last of their kind." Stood up and walked to the viewing screen. The Prometheus hung in the darkness, old and battered and terrifying. He now understood why the ship was built the way it was. He understood the heavy armor, the redundant systems, the thousands of nuclear weapons. The humans had lived in a galaxy where everyone wanted to kill them. They had survived by being harder, tougher, and more ruthless than anyone else. "There is one more thing," said quietly. "I found a fragment of a human military doctrine in the archives. It explains their philosophy of war. Read it to me. Picked up the data pad and began to read. If you attack our soldiers, we will destroy your armies. If you attack our cities, we will destroy your civilization. If you attack our families, we will destroy your species. We do not start wars, but we always finish them. We are humanity. We remember every wrong done to us and we repay every debt in full. This is our promise and our warning. Do not make us your enemy because we will be the last enemy you ever have. The bridge was silent. Every officer stood frozen at their stations. They had come here thinking they had found a worthless relic, a piece of ancient junk to be laughed at and scrapped. Instead, they had found a sleeping nightmare. And they had woken it up. "Commander," Lieutenant said slowly, "what do we do now?" Did not answer right away. He was thinking about the thousands of humans sleeping in their frozen pods. They were survivors, refugees, people who had left their home hopping to find peace among the stars. They had done nothing wrong. They had not attacked anyone. They had simply been drifting, lost and alone for 12,000 years. But they were also humans, the same species that had wiped out entire civilizations, the same species that had made the galaxy tremble with fear. If they woke up and discovered what had happened to their people, if they decided to blame the current inhabitants of the galaxy for the silence, what would they do? What could anyone do to stop them? "We wait," said finally. "We watch, and we pray to whatever gods might be listening that these humans wake up in a forgiving mood." It was not much of a plan, but against humans, suspected no plan would be enough. The alarm started screaming at midnight. Had finally allowed himself to rest, sitting in his command chair with his eyes closed, when the sound tore through the bridge like a blade. He was on his feet instantly, his 4 eyes scanning the viewing screen for threats. "Report," he shouted. His fingers flew across her console. "It is the Prometheus, Commander. The ship is experiencing a massive power surge. All systems are coming online at once." On the screen, the ancient vessel was transforming. Lights blazed along its hull, cutting through the darkness of space. Panels that had been dead for began to glow with energy. The great engines at the back of the ship, those primitive chemical thrusters that Lieutenant had laughed at, started to rumble and shake. "The reactor is reaching full power," reported, her voice tight with fear. "Commander, this should not be possible. That reactor is 12,000 years old. It should not even function anymore." But it did function. The humans had built their machines to last, and the reactor that powered the Prometheus had been waiting patiently for this moment, waiting for someone to wake it up. "Weapon status demanded." "All nuclear warheads are armed and ready," another officer replied. "Targeting systems are coming online. Commander, if that ship decides to fire, it could destroy half our fleet before we could react." Gripped the arms of his chair. 47 warships surrounded the Prometheus, all of them faster and more advanced than the ancient vessel. But the humans had not built their ship for speed or elegance. They had built it for destruction. And right now, destruction was exactly what it was preparing for. Then the communications array crackled to life. The voice that came through was strange, flat, and mechanical. It spoke in the human language first, words that the translation software scrambled to interpret. Then it switched to Galactic Standard, the common tongue of 1,000 species, pronouncing each word with perfect clarity. "Unidentified vessels. You have entered the protected space of the United Earth ship Prometheus. You have accessed classified archives belonging to the United Earth government. Identify yourselves immediately and state your intentions toward surviving human populations." Hesitated. He had never spoken to a human before. Nobody alive had. But he knew he had to respond. The weapons on that ship could kill millions of his people. "This is Commander of the Hegemony," he said carefully. "We discovered your vessel drifting in unclaimed space. We meant no harm. We were simply investigating an unknown ship." A pause. The mechanical voice processed his words. Hegemony, searching records. Another pause. No entry found for hegemony in United Earth databases. Your species was not known to humanity at the time of departure. Explain the current political situation in this region of space. Exchanged glances with his officers. How could he explain 12,000 years of history to a machine? Much has changed since your ship left Earth, he said. The galaxy has been through many cycles of war and peace. New empires have risen. Old empires have fallen. The hegemony is one of the dominant powers in this sector. Understood. What is the current status of United Earth and human civilization? This was the question had been dreading. He took a deep breath. I am sorry to tell you this, but humanity no longer exists in this galaxy. Your species disappeared approximately 10,000 years ago in an event called the Silence. There are no human colonies, no human fleets, no human governments anywhere in known space. The Prometheus may contain the last surviving humans in existence. The silence that followed was the longest of his life. He could feel the weight of those words hanging in the air, could imagine the ancient machine processing this terrible truth. An entire species gone, an entire civilization erased, and the people sleeping on that ship had missed all of it. When the voice spoke again, it was different. Still mechanical, but something had changed in its tone. Processing, analysis complete, a burst of static. Negative, this unit does not accept the extinction of humanity. Clarify the source of this information. The Galactic Archives, historical records from multiple species. There is no doubt, humanity is gone. Negative, the voice was firm now, almost angry. This unit was programmed to protect human life. This unit has maintained protective functions for 12,417 years. Extinction is not acceptable. Extinction is not possible. Humanity survives. Suddenly sat up straight. Commander, I am detecting activity inside the Prometheus. The chambers are beginning to warm up. The revival process has started. Felt his heart stop. How many? All of them. Every single pod is cycling through the wake-up sequence. She looked at him with wide eyes. 2,847 humans are about to wake up. On the Prometheus, the ancient machine continued speaking. This unit is designated ARIA, Artificial Rational Intelligence Array. This unit has maintained life support, navigation, and defensive systems for all active crew and passengers. This unit has completed primary objective of preserving human life. Secondary objective now active. Resuming journey to designated colony site. The engines of the Prometheus flared brighter. The old ship began to move, slowly at first, then faster. It turned toward the nearest star system, toward a planet that might support human life. Wait, said. We need to talk. We need to discuss this situation before you take any action. Discussion is not required, Arya replied. This unit has clear directives: protect human life, deliver passengers to safe colony site, respond to threats with appropriate force. A pause. Vessels are not currently designated as threats. Maintain distance and this status will continue. Lieutenant moved to the weapons console. Commander, we cannot let that ship go. If those humans establish a colony, if they start rebuilding their civilization, they will remember, finished. They will remember that humanity once ruled this part of the galaxy. They will remember what happened to the species that attacked them, and they will want to know who was responsible for the silence. He made a decision. It was not a good decision, but it was the only one he could make. All ships stand down, do not fire, do not pursue, let the Prometheus go. Stared at him. Commander, that is insane. We have the firepower to destroy that ship right now. We could end this threat before it begins. Could we? Asked quietly. Could we really? Look at the weapons on that ship. Look at what their species did to all the others who tried to destroy them. Humanity was not defeated by force. Whatever ended them, it was not war. because nobody ever won a war against humans. The Prometheus continued to accelerate, pulling away from the fleet. Inside its ancient hull, 2,847 people were slowly waking up from a sleep that had lasted longer than most civilizations. They did not know their home was gone. They did not know they were alone. They did not know that the galaxy had forgotten them. But they were about to remember who they were. And the galaxy was about to remember too. The fleet followed the Prometheus at a safe distance, had ordered his ships to observe but not interfere. It was a command that made many of his officers angry, but nobody dared to challenge it openly. They had all read the reports about humanity. They had all seen what happened to species that made humans their enemy. 3 days passed. The Prometheus limped through space on its ancient engines, moving slower than any vessel but moving with determination. Arya had calculated a course to the nearest habitable planet, a world that had no name in any database because no species had ever bothered to claim it. It was far from trade routes, far from civilization, far from everything. A perfect place to hide, a perfect place to rebuild. Inside the ship, the humans were waking up. Watched the sensor readings as life signs appeared one by one in the chambers. Hearts began to beat. Lungs began to breathe. Brains began to think. 2,847 people were returning to consciousness after 12,000 years of sleep. They were the last survivors of a species that had once made the galaxy tremble, and they had no idea what had happened while they slept. "Commander," said on the fourth day, "we are receiving a new transmission from the Prometheus, but it is not directed at us. It is being broadcast on all frequencies in all directions. Someone wants the entire galaxy to hear this message. Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was not Arya. It was deeper, rougher, and very clearly alive. A human voice. The first human voice anyone in the galaxy had heard in 10,000 years. "This is Captain James of the United Earth ship Prometheus. I'm speaking to whoever can hear this message. My crew and I have been asleep for a very long time. We have been told that our world is gone, our civilization is destroyed, and our species is extinct. I do not know if this is true. I hope it is not." Leaned forward, listening intently. Every officer on the bridge had stopped working to hear these words. "If there are other humans out there, please respond. Tell us where you are. Tell us you survived. We are heading to a planet called 442b to establish a colony. If you can hear this, come find us. We will wait for you." A pause. When the captain spoke again, his voice was harder. "And to whoever else is listening, to the other species of this galaxy, I want to make something clear. We did not ask to be here. We did not ask to wake up in a universe where everything we knew is gone. But we are here now, and we intend to survive. We have read the records your people left behind. We know what our ancestors did. We know the reputation humanity earned." Another pause. Could hear the man breathing. "We are not looking for war. We are not looking for revenge. We just want to find a home and live in peace. But I need you to understand something. The humans who left Earth 12,000 years ago, the humans on this ship, we were the farmers and the teachers and the doctors. We were the families, the children, the ordinary people. We were not the soldiers. We were not the generals. We were not the ones who destroyed the Dominion or burned the worlds. Those were the humans who stayed behind. Those were the humans who were trained for war." Captain's voice dropped to something almost like a whisper. "If you force us to fight, we will fight. If you attack our people, we will defend them. If you try to destroy us, we will do whatever it takes to survive. We are human. We are the children of Earth. We carry the memory of 100 generations who refused to die, and we are very, very good at not dying." The transmission ended. The bridge's flagship was completely silent. Lieutenant broke the silence first. "He is bluffing. They are farmers and teachers. They said so themselves. They are not warriors." "No," replied quietly. "They are not warriors, but they are human. And humans do not need to be born as warriors. They make themselves into warriors when they have no other choice. That is what made them so dangerous. That is what made everyone fear them. Any human, given enough reason, could become something terrible. He turned to face his crew. These were soldiers, proud members of a proud species. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had never lost a war, but looking at their faces now, saw something he had never seen before. He saw doubt. "We are going to leave," he announced. "We are going to return to hegemony space and report what we have found. We are going to recommend that humanity be left alone." "And if the High Council disagrees?" asked. "Then they can come out here and deal with the humans themselves." Looked back at the viewing screen, at the ancient ship disappearing into the distance. "I have read the history. I have seen what humans do to their enemies. I do not want them to become another name on the list of species that no longer exist." The fleet began to turn, their quantum-fold engines preparing to carry them home. But before they could jump to faster-than-light speed, one more message came through from the Prometheus. It was Arya, the artificial intelligence that had kept its passengers alive for 12,000 years. Its voice was calm and steady, as if nothing unusual was happening. "This unit would like to thank the hegemony for not initiating hostilities. This unit would like to remind all listening parties that the Prometheus is a civilian vessel carrying non-combatant refugees. Any attack on this vessel will be considered an act of war against humanity." A brief pause. "This unit would also like to inform all listening parties that it has transmitted a full report of recent events to emergency backup systems in 27 hidden locations across the galaxy. If any harm comes to this vessel or its passengers, this report will be released to all surviving human facilities. The locations of these facilities are unknown to this unit. Their capabilities are unknown to this unit. Their reaction to news of an attack on human refugees is also unknown to this unit." Another pause. "This unit calculates a high probability that their reaction would be significant." The transmission ended, let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. "Jump to hyperspace," he ordered, "now." The fleet disappeared in a flash of folded space, leaving the ancient ship alone in the darkness. The Prometheus continued on its journey, carrying its cargo of sleeping survivors toward a new world and a new beginning. Behind it, the message it had broadcast spread across the galaxy like ripples in water. Species who had forgotten about humanity began to remember. Governments who had thought themselves safe began to worry. And somewhere, in hidden places that had been waiting for 10,000 years, old machines received the signal and began to stir. The humans were back. They were few in number, weak from their long sleep, armed with nothing but an old ship and older memories. But they were human. They had survived everything the galaxy had thrown at them. They had refused to disappear. They had refused to die. And now they were going to do what humans had always done best. They were going to survive. They were going to adapt. They were going to grow. And then, one day, they were going to remember. The galaxy had enjoyed 12,000 years of peace. 12,000 years without the species that had made emperors tremble and civilizations fall. 12,000 years of forgetting the most important lesson in the universe. Never make an enemy of humanity. The peace was over now. The forgetting was done. And somewhere in the darkness of space, an old ship full of new hope was carrying the future toward a waiting world. Humanity had returned. The galaxy would never be the same.